Productivity content doesn't motivate you, it indicts you quietly. Before you tell yourself, some of it helps. Do the ritual, like the video, subscribe, comment something like, "This felt personal." Share it with someone who has watched 12 productivity videos today and still hasn't done the thing. There. Now we can be honest. Productivity content makes you feel worse because it keeps diagnosing the wrong problem. It assumes the issue is effort, or discipline, or systems, or mindset, or consistency, or willpower. It assumes you are underperforming. But most of the time, you're not underperforming. You're overfunctioning in a life that doesn't feel like yours. And no planner fixes that. Productivity content is built on a very specific fantasy, that if you optimize the inputs, the outputs will finally feel satisfying. That if you manage your time correctly, your life will make sense. That if you become efficient enough, the emptiness will go away. So it teaches you how to wake up earlier, how to batch tasks, how to automate decisions, how to track habits, how to squeeze more out of every hour, and every tip carries the same subtext. If you were better, you wouldn't feel like this. That's why it hurts. Because you're already trying. You're already pushing. You're already doing a lot of things right. You're just not enjoying the life you're being productive inside of. Productivity content doesn't ask whether the work matters to you. It only asks how to do more of it. And that's the quiet violence of it. It treats your resistance as a flaw instead of a signal. It treats your exhaustion as inefficiency instead of information. It treats your lack of motivation as laziness instead of misalignment. So every time you watch it, you feel briefly hopeful, and then deeply inadequate. Because the systems work, just not on the thing you actually need. Here's what productivity content gets wrong at a foundational level. It assumes humans are machines. That if the machine is stalling, you just need better lubrication, better inputs, better optimization, but you're not stalling, you're protesting. Your system is responding exactly as it should to a life that feels misaligned, over-controlled, or quietly resentful. You don't wake up unmotivated because you're undisciplined. You wake up unmotivated because something about your day doesn't feel worth the cost. And productivity culture cannot tolerate that idea because it threatens the whole framework. So instead, it reframes your discomfort as a personal failure. You didn't plan well enough. You didn't try hard enough. You didn't want it badly enough. And you internalize that. You start watching productivity content not to learn, but to punish yourself gently. You already know how to make a to-do list. You already know how to prioritize. You already know how to focus when something truly matters. But you watch anyway, because part of you hopes someone will finally explain why doing everything right still feels wrong. And no one does. Because productivity content doesn't deal in meaning, it deals in output. It doesn't ask, is this the life you want to be efficient in? It asks, how can you do more without questioning why? So it gives you systems and hacks and routines. And when those don't work long term, it doesn't question the goal. It questions you. That's why productivity content feels worse the longer you consume it. At first it feels empowering, like control, like hope. But eventually it starts to feel like surveillance. You track yourself, monitor yourself, audit your own behavior. You turn your life into a performance review. Am I maximizing my time? Am I wasting potential? Am I falling behind? Why can't I just execute like other people? And suddenly rest feels guilty. Hesitation feels shameful. Desire feels indulgent unless it produces something measurable. You stop listening to your body. You override it. You stop asking whether you want something. You ask whether it's productive. That's when things really start to break down. Because productivity content doesn't account for emotional labor, or grief, or resentment, or burnout that comes from obligation rather than effort. It doesn't account for the cost of living a life that looks fine on paper, but feels empty internally. So when you can't keep up, you don't question the structure. You question your worth. You think, why am I like this? Why can't I just do it? What's wrong with me? And the content happily offers answers. You need more discipline, more structure, more optimization, never less misalignment. Productivity culture is obsessed with control, and control feels good when your life feels unstable, or uncertain, or overwhelming, so you cling to it. You optimize your mornings, your evenings, your habits, your sleep, your diet, your workflow. You make life smaller, so it's easier to manage. And for a while that helps, but eventually the question comes back, quietly, persistently. What is all this for? And productivity content has no answer. Because it's not designed to give you one. It's designed to keep you producing, not to help you feel alive. So when the systems stop working, when motivation drops, when resistance shows up, it tells you to push harder. Override yourself, discipline yourself, conquer yourself. But you're not your enemy. Your resistance is not sabotage. It's communication. It's saying, this costs too much. This doesn't feel chosen. This isn't what I want to be efficient at. And instead of listening, productivity culture tells you to silence it. That's why it leaves you feeling worse, because somewhere inside you know the problem isn't effort, it's meaning. You don't lack discipline. You lack consent. You're doing things you didn't fully choose, pursuing goals you inherited, optimizing routines for a life that doesn't excite you. And no amount of productivity content can fix that. It can only help you ignore it more efficiently. That's why you feel a particular kind of shame after consuming it. Not loud shame, quiet shame, the kind that says, I should be better than this. I should want this more. I shouldn't struggle so much. You start believing your fatigue is a personal flaw instead of a reasonable response. You stop trusting yourself. You trust systems instead. And when those systems fail you, you feel broken. But you're not broken. You're misdiagnosed. Productivity content works beautifully for people who already want what they're doing. It amplifies alignment. It doesn't create it. So when it doesn't work for you, it's not because you're lazy. It's because you're trying to optimize your way out of a deeper discomfort, one that productivity culture refuses to name. That discomfort says, this life feels narrow. This life feels over-controlled. This life feels like maintenance, not meaning. So you keep searching for a better system, a better routine, a better framework, because admitting the truth would require something harder, questioning the structure you're inside of. And productivity content doesn't make space for that, because if you question the structure, you might stop producing. So it keeps you busy, distracted, optimizing endlessly. It gives you the illusion of progress, while keeping you exactly where you are. That's why it feels bad, not because you're failing at productivity, but because productivity is asking you to ignore something you can't unfeel. You don't need another planner. You don't need another routine. You don't need another optimization strategy. You need permission to question whether the life you're managing is actually one you want to inhabit. And that question terrifies productivity culture. So it never asks it. Instead, it tells you to wake up earlier. Not advice, not motivation, just the reason productivity content feels like a quiet accusation every time you press play.